Panasonic, the heart of your system.
Alright guys, Dominic here for Kit Guru, and today we're actually doing something a little bit different. That's because we're looking at this, an Asus ChromeBox 3. So if you don't know, a ChromeBox is essentially a mini PC that runs Chrome OS. So we know about Chromebooks, which are essentially laptops running Chrome OS, but a ChromeBox is a mini PC running that Chrome OS. And this is of course from Asus. So we're going to kick off with a little unboxing. I've already just cut the seal, so just to get this video started a little bit quicker. And inside we can see things are comprised of two components. We've got two separate little areas. So I'm going to take out the actual ChromeBox itself first. It comes in this nice little protective wrapping, and I'll put that to one side. First impressions are it's actually quite light. So in this other section here, what can we expect? We've got four different documentation pieces. Quick start guide. This looks like some kind of update information, that kind of thing. Safety information, and then a warranty card. So, you know, all fairly standard stuff. What else do we get? We get what looks to be 4 screws. We'll see what they're about in a moment. Small little AC adapter. Let's see if it has a quick wattage on it. Not that I can see, but we'll come back to that. I can't imagine it'll be very high anyway. This is the Celeron model of the Asus ChromeBox, so not very high powered at all. I think the specific model is the 3865U, although I can double check that as it's written here on the side. Yep, 3865U, and I believe that is a 15 watt TDP. So again, not very high powered whatsoever. And then obviously then we have another kettle lead for the little power adapter. So now moving on to this last little piece, this is, as I suspected, what the screws are for. So this is essentially a VESA mount, or a VESA mount, however you want to say it. So you can use this to screw the ChromeBox itself onto the back of your monitor. Because it's so small, it's not going to weigh it down at all, and that way you have a very clean, tidy solution, and you can essentially make your monitor kind of an all-in-one PC. I'm not going to be using that, but again, it's very useful. This is the kind of thing that would be great for schools or businesses where you just want to quickly get it out the way, get it out from, you know, prying hands, fiddly fingers, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to quickly clean up my desk, and we're going to start plugging in the ChromeBox. I'm going to go through the setup guide, and we're going to look at what kind of performance you can expect and all that kind of stuff. So give me 1 minute just to clear all this stuff up, and we will dive into using the ChromeBox 3. Now I've got the table cleared. Just before we do actually dive into this setup, it is of course worth taking a look at the ChromeBox 3 itself. So let me just get this plastic wrapping out the way. There we go. So it's a relatively dinky unit. It doesn't weigh very much at all. It's got a plastic construction. As I mentioned, it's £250, so it's not going to be the most premium thing. But I do like the kind of brushed finish Asus is going for on the top panel, and of course you've got the little Chrome logo. So if we take a little tour on the front panel, we can see we've actually got a headphone jack, which is nice, so you don't have to rely on Bluetooth earphones or anything like that. And then there are 2 USB 3.1 ports on the very front, as well as a small micro SD card reader. You might want to use the SD card reader or invest in one if you haven't got one already, purely because the internal storage is only 32 gigabytes. But of course, being Chrome OS, you know, everything's kind of meant to be cloud-based, so you would of course be using Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever it may be. But for internal storage, maybe you want to have some local files, music for instance. You may want to look at getting a micro SD. Over on the right hand side, there's just a Kensington lock, so nobody is going to go and nick your ChromeBox. And on the back, we find a lot more going on. We've got an Ethernet port, there's of course inbuilt Wi-Fi, as well as 2 USB 2.0 ports, another USB 3.1, they're all Type A, full-size HDMI, power input, and then there is actually a USB 3.1 Type C. Now this can actually provide a external display output, so you can use both the HDMI and the Type C for 2 displays, while it of course can also take a data transfer, for instance, plug in a phone or whatever you're going to do with that Type C. So that is essentially it in a nutshell. If we turn over to the bottom, we can see a fair bit of ventilation. It's going to be interesting to see what noise this makes, if any, because of course, as I mentioned, it's a very low power piece of kit. The Celeron is not very high wattage at all. But that is it for a quick tour of the ChromeBox 3, and we're now going to dive into actually using the device and seeing what it's like to use in the real world environment. So this is the screen that greets you when you first boot up. So I'm just going to go and click Let's Go. I'm going to connect to my Wi-Fi network. And now I've connected to the Wi-Fi, you of course need to accept to all the terms and conditions. Checking for updates. Shouldn't take long to install these updates. One of the big selling points of Chrome OS is, of course, it is very lightweight. So we'll just skip past these and come back. So now after about probably 3 minutes of downloading an update and then one restart, we're now at the sign-in. So if you don't have a Google account, you will have to make one to use the ChromeBox 3. So I'm just going to go and log in, put in my password, and then we'll see what happens after that. And now we finally landed on the Chrome OS desktop, so the whole process really didn't take that long, probably about 5 minutes from power on until first boot. The first thing I'm going to do is try and find some kind of display scaling, because I'm actually using with a 4K monitor, and so I think I'm going to go into settings, looking for displays, there we go, and you can see I'm at the 4K resolution. I could choose a different resolution, but you can see here there's display size. So this is effectively scaling. So I'm going to go for 160, probably a little bit big, 140, there we go. So actually, the first thing I'm actually going to do is just turn off the system, and we're going to see how long it takes to boot from cold. So power off there. And now, if I just get up a timer, I'm going to have a timer on off screen so we can see what the actual speed is. I go and hit power on. Quick row of fans there, and this should see how long it's going to take us to get to the Google login screen. Okay, it's detected the input, and there we go, login screen, and that was after 12 seconds 33. This is just a quick test. I wanted to see, in the past, Chromebooks and Chrome OS has typically been very, very quick to boot, and obviously 12 seconds to the login screen is again a top result. So when you boot it back up, it of course loads Google Chrome. This is essentially the main area of the Chrome OS. We'll quickly minimize that now, just take a little tour. So down here you have a little files where you can see your downloads, and you can of course have your local files. You can also open up your Google Drive if you've got any files in there. But as I mentioned, 32 gigabytes of local storage, everything's mostly going to be in Google Drive. And now the other thing down here is the Play Store. As we know, Chrome OS now uses the same Play Store as you would get on an Android phone, so you should be able to download all of your favorite phone apps straight onto your ChromeBox. So here you can see various things we're going to install. We're going to take a look at what kind of the compatibility is like between different Android apps, because in my previous experience, getting some apps which are designed to use on a phone to work natively on a actual desktop can be a little bit fiddly and occasionally frustrating. But for the most part, if you're buying a ChromeBox, the chances are you're the kind of person who just wants to do some basic emailing, basic web browsing, and that kind of thing, maybe watching some YouTube as well. Speaking of YouTube, I've actually now opened a 4K video. This is obviously my latest unboxing of a MSI RTX 2070. So as you can see down here, I've got the resolution set at 4K, and bearing in mind this is a relatively low power Celeron, I just want to confirm that it is able to run the 4K video without a hitch. So I've just muted the sound, but so far playback looks absolutely fine. It's obviously running on Intel integrated graphics, but for this dual-core Celeron, there seems to be no hitches or anything like that so far, and playback is very, very smooth. So even though it's just a fairly basic system, you can see that it is able to run 4K videos absolutely no problem. We've now opened up Google Docs just to test out some kind of word processing power of the ChromeBox 3. So if I just start typing, we'll come back in just a little while and we'll see kind of what the general experience is, just for the kind of person who wants a small little PC stuck behind their monitor, which they can just type up documents, get some work done, and they don't want a big noisy machine. So just as you can see there, I've had absolutely no issues trying to just type up some brief sentences using Google Docs. It's a very quick and snappy experience. As we would expect, it is a dual-core Celeron, but this isn't exactly the most demanding of stuff. What we are going to do now is try and put a little bit more load on. We're just going to open a few tabs with maybe quite a few images in each one, and we're going to see what switching between them all is going to be like. So I'm just opening up 5 different tabs now in Google Chrome. And as we mentioned a few times, this is the Celeron model, so how quick Well, firstly, the web pages do load very fast, which is nice. Once we've got them all open, we can see all the web pages are now open. We switch between them. It's very snappy. It's got 4 GB of RAM in this system, so that should be more than enough. We know Chrome is quite hungry, but if you've got a few tabs open, you can easily switch between them. There doesn't seem to be any stuttering, any kind of lag there. And if we just want to open up a few photos, that's all nice and fast load times, and it's again a very fast and responsive experience. I've now opened the Play Store and we're going to download Stick Hero. So this is a game you would play on your phone, and typically it only runs in vertical orientation. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of compatibility you can expect when opening a game which is very much designed for phone use on your ChromeBox. So straight away you can see here, I'm just minimize out of there. You can see the game kind of loads in this very small window. The application needs to restart to resize. So that's the first indication. It says it may not work well when resized. So that is definitely the first indication that things that are designed very much for phone use may not be perfect for something like a ChromeBox. We'll give this a go though. It's just a very basic game where you have to jump between each different kind of pillar, I guess. So while on a phone you would simply tap the screen, on the ChromeBox you just need to click and then you can see you just move from pillar to pillar. So it's a very, very basic game. I'm not the best at it, I must admit, as you can see here. It doesn't feel that smooth though, so that is definitely something to consider. I wouldn't consider this to be the perfect platform for any mobile gaming. And now I've just downloaded Spotify, so if I go and hit open, you can see there are these big black bars going around the outside of the app. This should be where you get the options to log in. So obviously you can't even log in using this app. And if I hit the maximize button, another black bar just appears in the middle. So this just goes to show that not all apps that have been designed to run on phones are going to work on your ChromeBox. So if you do have the option to open it through Google Chrome, that would be the way to go. In terms of noise and kind of heat output, I'm just going to put my hand on it while we're playing a 4K video, and the ChromeBox is actually very, very cool. Move it around to the sides, absolutely no heat coming off that whatsoever. And again, I can't hear it at all. There is a small fan in the ChromeBox which you can only really hear once the system powers on, but for the normal day-to-day operating it is absolutely silent. So now just wrapping up our look at the Asus ChromeBox 3, I think we do have to keep in perspective that this is very much going to be for kind of schools, businesses, or even just kind of first-time users, maybe for your grandparents, people who really just want a very basic, lightweight desktop system that is actually very portable as well, and you can easily hide it behind the monitor thanks to the included VESA mount. It's not going to be someone who wants to do video editing, image editing, any kind of gaming, that sort of thing. This is very much for people who just want to do kind of a basic, web-based, lightweight kind of system. They just want to do emailing, word processing, general typing, browsing, YouTube watching, that kind of thing. So we really have to kind of change our perspective. Coming from Kit Guru, we obviously like to look in things in detail. We like to look at the most powerful systems, the most expensive graphics cards, that kind of thing. But at just £250, this ChromeBox 3 is for a very different type of user than the one we would usually be recommending products to. That being said though, the ChromeBox 3 is actually a very nippy and fast device. It only uses a dual-core Celeron, so you know, if we were to run any benchmarks on it, it's obviously not going to perform that well. But if you're just running Chrome with 4 GB of RAM, we had no issues switching between various tabs while open, and it was also a very quiet and cool device while running any of our videos. And we also tested several 4K videos and absolutely fine, no issues there whatsoever. The area where we encountered the most issues was when trying to download and install different apps which were clearly designed for mobile use. That's because the ChromeBox uses the same Play Store as you would find on an Android phone, and there we ran into a few compatibility issues. Things like Spotify straight up wouldn't let us log in, so that was a bit strange. And then we also had issues where games that were designed to be played vertically, you lose a lot of screen real estate when you've got the ChromeBox connected to a monitor. That being said though, for £250, I think the ChromeBox 3 is a very good system actually for that price. You get a very nippy kind of lightweight system. So as we mentioned, it's not going to be for anyone who wants to run some intensive tasks, but maybe for a student or maybe for a grandparent, the kind of person who just wants to run a few basic tasks, maybe running some emails, doing the word processing as we mentioned, it would prove to be a very good option. So I'm Dominic 4Kit Guru. We have been looking at the Asus ChromeBox 3 today. If you like this video, you can give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment below as well. Would you consider a ChromeBox? We know many of our audience are into their high-end gaming PCs, but just for that kind of basic experience where you just want to run a few emails, would you consider maybe getting a ChromeBox, taking it with you if you ever have to travel for work, for instance? Do let us know down in the comments, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon as well to be notified about all of our future videos. But until then, I'm Dominic 4Kit Guru, and we will see you in the next video.